James, you want to talk about NBA draft lottery? I want to talk about NBA draft lottery. I just want to say this. I just want to say this before we get into it. All of you guys that go and say my team's going to be in the draft lottery. Oh, it doesn't matter if we finish with the worst record in the league. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Because guess what? You don't want to fall out of that top five. You don't want to fall out of that top three. Like the Pistons, all of their fans that are like, this sucks. We lost the most games. We're some ass. How did we only get the fifth pick? Guess what? That's the pick you're most likely to get, you dumb fucks.
Yeah.
like it's like I know the odds to get the first pick, the bottom three records are the same, but man, those Pistons fans came up on the short end of the stick. Thing is, if they had won more games, they could have ended up with the seventh pick. Like,
Yeah.
like if you're gonna be that bad, you want to guarantee you're not fucked. Okay.
Yeah, the Pistons got screwed a little bit.
Did they get screwed? They got the
Well,
thing they
no,
were
it's
most
right.
likely to get.
It's funny because yeah, I've seen this with Rockets fans a lot where they say, "Oh, we slipped in the lottery." Like, if you look at the odds, we technically jumped from sixth to fourth, right? It depends what your perspective is. On the other hand, if you're looking at like the odds relative to other teams, yeah, we dropped, I guess, from second to fourth. But like, it's not.
You
It's
didn't.
this was always a very realistic possible outcome, right? Like there's just this way of it, like people get so overconfident somehow, and they just had this feeling like they're gonna like, oh, well, if we don't get Wemby, we're gonna at least get Scoot, and like, yeah, no, not at all, man. We could easily end up with Cam Whitmore, like,
Yeah, bro. Just do you not know how like probabilities work? The
yeah,
number, like the bigger that probability is, the more likely it is to happen.
like even on a basic level.
It's like it's anyways. Anyways, James. The San Antonio Spurs won the draft lottery. Who do you think they're gonna take?
Get out of here. I don't even want to talk about that one because it just gets so interesting immediately after, and it's not very interesting at
Okay,
number one.
so the Spurs won the NBA draft lottery, and they're probably, I'm not gonna say probably, unless there is a crime committed that results in death, I think they're taking Victor Wembanyama. I
Yeah,
think he could be paralyzed and you'd still draft him with the hope that you could get him back, right? Like as long as
yeah.
he's got two legs and they're attached to his body, he's going one. Wembanyama, if you haven't heard of him, you don't like basketball, I guess. And I don't know why
Yeah,
you've listened to this long of this
he's
podcast.
literally at this point he's probably more famous than Anthony Davis. So let's
He's more highly regarded. I do want to say this. I find it fucking hilarious that the Spurs organizational philosophy of getting the first overall pick every time there's a generational center available. Very interesting. I think it's a very good organizational strategy. I don't know why more teams don't try it, but
yeah. I wonder.
Spurs culture, baby.
It's funny, man. One thing that's funny about it is like I really try to resist the urge to give in to like the conspiracy theory that the
Yeah,
lottery is rigged. I
I blocked people. I blocked people after the lottery. I was like, people are just like, this was rigged. It's like, I'm blocking you, man. Like, come on, like this shit ain't rigged.
No, I don't think it's rigged, but it's
I know it's
funny
not.
that the result was like the most fodder for those people possible. Like the Spurs have all these links in France. They're very popular in France because of Tony Parker. They got the best coach in NBA history. The league wants to protect their asset by making sure Wembanyama has good like guidance. Like I've felt that Wemby was going to be a Spur in my gut for months. When I ran NBA 2K simulations, I would always give the Spurs the number one pick. Like I just felt like this felt inevitable, and then it actually happened. So there was a part of me for a second I was like, this shit is fucking rigged. But the better part of me knows that it's not. It's not rigged.
Also, like my counter to all that is like the Spurs are like a pretty small market team, so like
But they have an international market, right?
yeah, but not like not really, man. Like international people, they like the Knicks for some reason, and they like the
Oh,
Lakers, right? Like that. Those tend to be like the big international teams, and now also the Golden State Warriors. Like I think the Spurs have a decent following in Mexico, but like that's not a market that like I think is a game changer like Europe would be. I'm just saying this, like if you want to, if like whenever there is like I know it's not rigged. Zion's on the Pelicans. He's not on the Knicks.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
Like
It's not rigged. It's not rigged.
It's not rigged. All right, fuck that noise. Let's talk about Spurs. Congratulations, you got Victor Wembanyama. Don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Don't fuck it up. Number 2, Charlotte jumps by barely jumps to the second overall pick. And this is where shit gets fucking interesting. And I think this is where we're gonna have a debate because the consensus number 2 prospect is Scoot Henderson. Scoot Henderson is a point guard. The Charlotte Hornets already have a point guard in LaMelo Ball. So the number 3 prospect is Brandon Miller, who is a wing. I'll just say a wing. I don't know. Power forward, maybe sometimes. Small forward, maybe sometimes. Shit, maybe he's shooting guard sometimes. But those are now wings. Wings, baby. He's a wing. So there's some thought that the Hornets, having a very good young point guard in LaMelo Ball, will take Brandon Miller, the 3rd best prospect in this draft by most accounts. Some people have him over Scoot. I think those people are insane, but whatever. And they'll just say, no, Blazers or whoever gets the 3rd pick, you can get Scoot Henderson. So I'm saying this. I think that would be a mistake. I think Scoot Henderson and LaMelo Ball would actually be a really good pairing. James, I know you've said this in the past. I think we've even talked about this on a podcast in the past that you're not so sure about that. I really think that they would be a fucking awesome backcourt pairing, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, no. Okay, so here's my thinking of it. First of all, like it's absolutely functional, and if it's the direction the Hornets want to take, it makes enough sense to me, right? And the main reason for that is that LaMelo Ball is a really good shooter, and not just a really good shooter, but like a really good catch and shoot player as well. Actually, like this isn't Trae Young where we don't know if he can actually shoot off the catch or if he really can just launch those deep off the dribble threes. Like Ball should be able to function in this role. He's done it with Terry Rozier, right? So like it does make some sense. I think that the questions are, one, is it optimal? Can you get the most out of both guys? Can both guys contribute as much as they're possible, as much as they're capable of contributing alongside one another? Because you're taking the ball out of LaMelo's hands, and I don't see any way around that. And I understand that you need multiple creators, but by virtue of the fact that Scoot is not a good shooter, the most logical thing for this long-term pairing would be for Scoot Henderson to become like the primary creator, like the default option, and Ball is the secondary creator. And
but I think that's what's best for LaMelo Ball. I don't think he's actually best as a primary creator.
I disagree, man. He's one of the best volume passing guards in the NBA already.
I know. I'm not saying he shouldn't pass a fuckload. What I'm saying is that like the primary offensive initiator to me needs to have the ability to collapse a defense. Or
I think you can suck the defense out, though. I think you need gravity, whether it's 3-point gravity or rim gravity, and he has the 3-point gravity. It's like Tyrese Halliburton.
And then Scoot has the rim gravity. Like I'm just saying, like that's to me the appeal is that it's like there's plenty enough touches when both are on the court to just do your turn, my turn. Right? Like I feel like
but I don't like your turn, my turn, right? Like that's how it's gonna end up looking.
Yeah, but like if it makes sense, your turn, my turn. Like imagine them running a pick and roll together. Like just think about how insane that like LaMelo has the ball, Scoot screens for him. Scoot's a crazy athlete, right? Like I'm sure he could be like pretty impressive as a rim runner every once in a while. But like think about that, right? Like
but think about a LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller pick and pop. Like you could put all sorts of stuff together, right?
I know. Like here's the thing. This is my question. How good do you think Brandon Miller can be compared to how good do you think Scoot Henderson can be?
Yeah, I certainly am much higher on Scoot Henderson for sure. So, but yeah, no, for sure. So, I mean, look, if I were the Hornets, I would probably take Scoot Henderson at the end of the day. I would probably take Scoot Henderson at the end of the day. But here's the second question that I think is really important, though. Is LaMelo Ball going to be happy about this? Like, because if the answer is no, then I would start thinking differently, because Ball is like, he's proven it. And I don't like that idea usually of like, oh, well, you take the sure thing. It's like, I feel like that's kind of how pussies manage an NBA team. And in my mind, you want to take risks and be bold. But LaMelo Ball is not just like a bird in the hand. This kid is like a proven like star producer. Like LaMelo Ball could contend for the MVP award someday. Like he deserves that grace because this kid has done like 23 and 8 on the NBA level already. 8 and a
I'm gonna say
half. Like
this. You say he could compete for an MVP. I don't know if he's quite that level, but like I think there is a world where like his game develops to that point. I'll say this. If LaMelo Ball isn't willing to play with Scoot Henderson the way he needs to, is that a guy worth building around?
well, but what if
Is that a guy that
his
you can win a lot of games with? Because like realistically, if LaMelo Ball's like the only way I want to play is I want to be big Trey Young, I would go, okay, well, I don't really give a fuck if we keep you because you're still going to put up numbers. And if Scoot turns out to be good as you or better than you, we could trade you and get players that make more sense around them, right? Like to me, the Hornets are effectively starting from scratch. They have all these veteran contracts of these guys that aren't going to be around much longer. Like they have a chance to add a top tier point guard talent next to a top tier point guard talent, right? Like, hey, if they hate each other, one turns out to be significantly better, they both turn out to be great. Like, those are still guys you can move for whatever you need down the line to fit around that guy. Like, that to me is the reality where I go, like, Brandon Miller to me, like, if you look at his numbers against like higher level college competition, wasn't so great, right? Like, people talk about like, Scoot didn't shoot that well from 3-point range. Yeah, but like Scoot was also shooting NBA 3-point range. Scoot's a year younger than Brandon Miller. Scoot's playing against real grown ass professionals in the G League. Scoot's got like a pretty good mid range game. Like there's like the real chance that like maybe he's never a great 3-point shooter, but he's probably gonna be pretty good in the mid range. And just the physical gifts, man. Like you look at this kid, he looks like a fucking Adonis, right? Like this is a guy who's going to be one of the most, he is like a combination of Russell Westbrook and John Wall physically. And like I just think that he's significantly better as a prospect where it's like all of those concerns I think are valid, but it's like, here's the thing. If someone can't handle another really good player playing next to them and getting the ball a lot, we'll just get rid of that dude because like that's not
so
winning basketball.
let me address that point, right? Because I see what you're saying, but I think LaMelo Ball could be justified in saying it's not that I don't want to play with other great players. I want my star teammate to be a scorer slash shooter because I know that I'm among the best decision makers with the ball in my hands in the NBA. So I don't want to split point guard duties with another elite point guard. I'm willing to cede offensive responsibility, but you got to go out there and get me an alpha scorer because I've got this part of it covered. And I think that would be fair on his part, you know?
No,
So
I get that. I get that.
yeah, that's where that comes into play for me, right? It's very interesting. So it boils down to this too. Like, what's your assessment of Henderson and what's your assessment of Miller, right?
Basically.
Yeah, but I mean, simply put, but I mean, like, I guess the Hornets could feel like, yeah, Henderson is an incrementally better prospect, but the margin is thinner to us than it is to other teams, so we are going to draft for fit. That's how they would justify taking Miller. I do
Yeah.
like Brandon Miller as a prospect. Like, I'll say that he looks like he should be a versatile defender. He's a versatile shooter. He can shoot off the dribble, catch, off balance, whatever you like. I don't think he's going to apply great rim pressure at the NBA level, and that's why I am doubtful that he'll be like a first, maybe even second offensive option on an NBA team. But I think he profiles as an elite third option and maybe a passable second option too.
Yeah, man.
So
I don't see it with him. I just don't see it with him in like he's one of these dudes where I don't see the physical ability to be a really high end player. And to me, it's like, oh, he could be a really great third option. Cool.
yeah,
Like cool. Like
he's lacking athleticism. Let me say, sorry to jump in on you there, but Cooper, our boy Cooper, we were talking about Brandon Miller last night, and he said something interesting. He was like, I hate when people compare him to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard because those guys came into the NBA as like underdeveloped, raw, unskilled athletes. And Miller is like, he says he's the perfect inverse. He's perfectly well developed. He's got craft and skill. He can handle and pass in addition to his great shooting. But the athletic traits that would portend higher upside aren't necessarily there. So I do get that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the third pick and the Portland Trailblazers, who did make a jump. These dudes made a jump. And I want to congratulate the Portland Trailblazers for basically putting an end to one of the maybe Damian Lillard's best season ever to be able to get to the third pick. It really paid off. This is where things get extra spicy. Because while the Hornets could trade the second overall pick, I think they'll just say, we're going to take Scoot or Miller, whichever one we like.
I agree.
Right?
I
like,
agree.
I just, why pussyfoot around? Just use the damn pick. Oh, you'll, like, you know, unless someone offers you a crazy amount for it, just go for it. The Trailblazers are different, though, because they have Damian Lillard, who, as I just said, had maybe the best season of his career. He is maybe the best offensive player in the NBA, right? Some people would say, I would say Jokic. Some people would say,
I would too, but Lillard's up there, though. He's way up there.
He's up there. He is so good on offense that he can be the centerpiece of a championship winning team. He's got his deficiencies on defense, but so does Steph Curry, right? Like, you can insulate guards. You can insulate bad defenders. Like, if you have smart roster building.
You caught yourself there, especially guards. It's easier.
It's easiest with guards. But nowadays, like, with how often people run pick and roll, it's really fucking hard, right? Like, it is hard to insulate guard anyone, but you can do it in a way that's easier than insulating yourself from a non-offensive threat, right? Like, you've got to be able to do something on offense in the modern game. So let's just ask this question. Should the fucking Trailblazers trade this pick?
I don't think they should, right? Personally. Well, first of all, it depends who's on the board, right? So let's say the Hornets take Brandon Miller, right? I think they should trade Damian Lillard for sure. You got the opportunity to start over with Scoot Henderson.
Okay,
come on.
Actually, let's just rewind it. Are we both, like, because I also agree they should be like, we got third overall pick. Let's just trade Dame.
Yeah. No, that's if Scoot's on the board, because let me say this. Say the Hornets actually take Scoot Henderson, right?
Yeah.
Now the Blazers are in an interesting position. I would not want to start a franchise from scratch with Brandon Miller, right? Like to me, the appeal of Miller at second is that they already have LaMelo Ball and they view him as a cornerstone. If Miller is your first cornerstone, I'm pretty pessimistic about that, right? And Amen Thompson is very much a boomer bust prospect, so I can understand if the Blazers said we're not really interested in going down that route. That sounds like 4 years of being irrelevant until he's ready. You know, like we're just not risking it. And so if Scoot is not on the board, yeah, maybe they should trade the pick. It depends on what the offer is, of course.
You know, this is gonna sound crazy, but how do the Trailblazers think this third overall pick, whoever they get, is going to be helpful if they want to win with Dame, right? Like, Dame's in his early 30s. Even if Brandon Miller ends up becoming a really, really, really good player, how good is he going to be next year? How good is he going to be in year 2? And after those first 2 seasons, Dame's like 35.
They have to either trade the pick or trade Dame, right? So to me, it's one or the other.
Yeah. So, like, to me, that, like, and I agree with you. It's like either trade Dame or trade the pick. Now, let's just say they're not going to trade Dame because they haven't traded Dame. And that's been the most fucking obvious. Like, they're the most obvious candidate for rebuild because they have almost all of their picks. They've gotten high picks these past 2 seasons. So they already got, like, you know, Shaedon Sharpe, some people think is really good. Some people are a little skeptical. Look, he's got a ton of talent. You have the third overall pick right now, and you're not like the Rockets trading James Harden where you had a bunch of picks out the door, right? Yeah. Like they're in a situation where if, like, you just trade Dame right now, you could be a good team in 3 years. Right?
Yeah. I mean, if Scoot Henderson's on the board, dude, you have the opportunity to assemble a Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe backcourt right off the bat. You had to gamble on the potential of that, man.
And they have Anthony Simons, like, he's young, like he could be a part of that core, or you could trade
Yeah.
him for a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so let's just say the Trailblazers keep the pick, or not keep the pick. Let's say they keep Dame. What should they do with that pick? Because I don't see any really high, like, unless the Raptors are like, we'll give you like Siakam and OG, and you send us like the third pick, and I don't know what else, right? Like,
Jaden Sharp, in my opinion. That's how that would look, in my opinion.
I mean, honestly, if I
Pascal
was the
and
Bla-
OG.
I would do Simon's third pick and maybe another pick, right? Like, I think that
Yeah,
would be a
that's another.
really good trade
And
for,
and I think Nurkic's contract is going to go over just to make it all make sense too. But like,
yeah,
who cares about using Nurkic anymore?
yeah.
Uh, yeah. So I think the Raptors offer the most sensible. And like, don't get me wrong, I do not think that Dame Lillard, Pascal Siakam, and OG Anunoby are like a serious title contender next year.
But
But
they'll
I
be good.
do. They would be good. That's the thing. That's what I was just gonna say. It is a good team. So if the Blazers insist on going this way, that's their best hope. And then I guess one wonders if they could entice the Brooklyn Nets to think about their roster and like get maybe Mikal Bridges and Nick Claxton over. Now in that situation, I suspect the Rockets would actually get involved because the Nets don't want to tank unless they can get their picks back. So maybe something where the Nets get like the fourth pick and a few of their picks back, two of their picks back. The Rockets get the third pick and the Blazers get Bridges and or Claxton could be viable. Other than that, it's a little difficult to look around and see anything that makes sense, man. I've seen people say Paul George. I think he's too old and injury prone. Like I would not. The third overall pick for Paul George does not sit well with me. So yeah, I honestly I feel like Portland needs the Raptors to play ball, or else I don't know what they're gonna do.
You know what I heard? This was, I think, it's one podcast. I was listening to podcasts, so I'm stealing this from someone. But they said, and I think you'll be receptive to this, Orlando 6-11 for three.
How does that help
Maybe,
Portland with Dame right now though?
and you could then use, because I think the problem is with the third pick is so fucking valuable that like there's no one really out there that's going to be available through trade as of right now, that like you'd be like, I'm giving up the third pick for this. But the 6th and 11th pick, yeah, like those are still good picks. And like, you might be able to like get someone that makes more sense for you. Um, but I think the trade was like Wendell Carter, 6-11 for like 3 and Nurk or whatever the fuck it like would be, or like to make the salary work. If I'm Orlando, I don't hate that idea, because it's
Oh, if
like,
I'm Orlando, I like it.
yeah, like I know Orlando Magic fans love Wendell Carter Jr. and like he's a good center, but like it's not hard. It's not that hard to find a player of his quality. And at the end of the day, it's like your best lineups, you better hope, are Paolo at center, because like I just don't know like how good he's gonna be at defending modern power forwards who are like predominantly small forwards, right? Like I don't see him being
Yep.
able to be a real wing defender. So it's like your best offensive lineups, your craziest lineups are going to be like, can Paolo survive at center on defense? And can we absolutely just torch people on offense? And I think, you get Brandon Miller, Franz, Paolo, like that right there as like, 3, 4, 5. That's a crazy amount of fun. And then all you need to do is just waste all of your picks on the next available high end guard.
Yeah, but what does it do for Portland? Like, hey Dame, don't worry, we got you Wendell Carter Jr. I feel like that's like
And
they're just
6
kind of
and
splitting the
11.
difference. Yeah,
and then
so
you and then you use 6 and 11 for
more trades.
more trades, or like you draft, like you use 6 and then you draft someone at 11 that like more of a plug and play guy, right? Like, because that's where you're more
Yeah, I
comfortable
don't think
doing
you're gonna
that.
convince him. I don't think you're gonna win him over with rookies either, though. But I guess you trade 6. I don't know. Like I see it in theory to an extent, but to me, I'm like the real money move is trade 3 for like a star or two. You know,
Yeah, the Rockets, your team, fourth overall pick. I was banging on the drum all year. They want to win. They want to win the fewest games in the league, give them the best chances not to drop out of the top 5. They didn't. They got the fourth pick. But in this draft, is the fourth pick better than the third pick?
I think for me and my preferences and what I'm hoping happens, I think that you could make the case. Although if the Rockets agree with me, they would rather just get the third pick because there are worlds where Amen Thompson ends up going third. I think this kid's measurables are absolutely bananas. Like people could look at this guy and say like we can't pass on the upside. If the Raptors trade for that third pick, I could see them taking Amen Thompson, even though
I mean,
the
come on, how
fit
many
with Scotty Barnes is horrible. Yeah,
how many
yeah, no,
guys do they need that can't shoot?
no, I agree. If Brandon Miller's on the board, they should take Brandon Miller. So yeah, but insofar as what the Rockets ought to do, it's definitely, if he's on the board, in my opinion, draft him in Thompson. I think Thompson would have Barn on the highest ceiling on the team. A lower floor than Jalen, a lower floor than Şengün for that matter, maybe even probably a lower floor than Bari, but a higher ceiling than any of them. And at this stage in the rebuild, I think it's far from the right time to play it safe, man. You got to go for broke. Like, take the kid that has superstar potential. If he busts, then you're going to be the poster boy for here's why you don't tank for a decade to come. But if he hits, then you got something, you know?
I like where the Rockets are because I always like being in that position where it's like we don't actually have to make a tough decision, right? Like if you're a general manager and it's like, oh, why'd you take this guy? Like he was like the obvious guy. Like we had no like the other guys were taken. It's not like it's like when you have like the second pick a lot of times or even the third pick a lot of times, there's like one or two guys, right? So like, it's like Jalen Green, taking Jalen Green over Evan Mobley, like that becomes if you fuck that up and Mobley ends up becoming way better than Green, that's like a fireable offense, right? But if like last season they get Jabari Smith Jr. like doesn't end up being good, well, like he was like the third dude, right? Like what we're supposed to like do the outside the box thing with the third pick, right? Like no one's getting upset with that. It's just like that's how the cards fell. I would also prefer Amen Thompson for the simple reason that like jumbo size playmakers are super, super, super nice to have. And we haven't seen one really that's a nuclear athlete. Like he would be like, you have LeBron, right? I guess like LeBron would be kind of that type of thing, right? But LeBron was probably, obviously he was better. But like how many like really athletic, true kind of like point guard playmakers that are also large have we seen? Like, because like Luka's not an explosive athlete. LaMelo, not an explosive athlete. Who else are the jumbo playmakers that are out there? Jokic, not an explosive athlete.
Yeah, to say the least. Cunningham, non-explosive athlete,
And he's not even
right?
big. Like Kate Cunningham's not even that big, right?
Not as
Like,
big as Thompson.
yeah, right?
Yeah, no,
Like I,
it's a well taken point, man. Let me frame it this way, okay?
yeah.
And tell me if this is crazy, but I don't think it is. If Amen Thompson was a good shooter, say like even just a marginally above average shooter, okay?
He'd be in
If that were the
conversation to
case,
go. He would definitely be in conversation to go two.
I think he would be in conversation to go one,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
right? If he was a good shooter, because yeah, maybe you seem to agree, so I don't even need to justify it any further.
Well,
But
no,
like,
I mean, like, have if look, he's one of these dudes. Like, I have questions, right? Like, and you should have questions. This dude did the
yeah,
overtime elite.
definitely.
Like, we haven't really had. I don't know if we've drafted anyone out of the overtime elite thing.
Nope,
He's a
nope.
bit older. He's a bit older. He hasn't played against like legit competition. The jump shot might literally be so bad that as to be like a non-factor, but you can't fake the physical measurables that this guy has, and the dribbling and the feel are all like they're all clearly there. Like I think he's someone that's gonna be if he's gonna be great, he's gonna have like a Russell Westbrook like rookie year where you're like, man, play through your mistakes, but there's gonna be moments where people go, oh fucking hell, this
Yeah,
dude's a player, right? Like there are
yeah.
gonna be moments where you're like, shit, that's a lot of turnovers. But if you're the Rockets, like I know the Rockets fans, like, they want Harden, they want to get good again. They don't want to give the Thunder a good pick. I'm just like, man, like at the end of the day, what you want is you want a championship. Trying to be as good next year as possible is not giving you the best chances to win a championship.
It's
Amen.
so
Amen
dumb.
gives you the best chance at it. Like he gives you the best chance because when you're going for a championship, it's about the upside. It's about upside swings. It's about the upside play, right? Like he gives you that best chance for that. And I think like that's the gamble you have to take. And Miller is one of these dudes where like, if the Kings were, it's like kind of like, the Kings would take him at 4 last year type of situation where it's like, you feel like he can come in, carve out a role as a rookie, develop, and so help your team now, help your team in the future. But you're really not thinking like, oh yeah, like when this guy reaches his peak, he's gonna be the guy leading us to a title. Like, no, you're like, we'll need to get that dude. We'll need to get that dude. Like, Amen could be that dude. He also could just be not. But with a guy with that size and physical ability and playmaking, right? Like, I don't think he's a high. Like, I think you're actually underselling his floor, right? Like, dude, like Ricky Rubio can't fucking shoot, but the dude can play make and play defense. And like whenever he's on the court, his teams have a positive plus minus net rating, right? Like,
Let me
why couldn't he just be a freak athlete Rubio? And that's a pretty
Oh,
high
he
floor.
definitely he could. He absolutely could. But let me hit on a couple of those points. First of all, could not agree more about the Rockets and the position they're in, man. Like, it's funny how people want to impose this artificial timeline on it. Like, well, now is the time to get good. It's like, well, I mean, not at the expense of the future because we're horrible, you know? Like, so there are things you can do to get better next year that don't come at the expense of the future. And those are the things you need to be looking at, right? Like, I don't want James Harden back at all, man, and especially not on a 4-year contract. Go get
Man, I
Mike
got you. I
Conley.
got you. I can.
No,
I
but
don't know if
yeah,
I
the
could.
more I sat with it, the more I was like, this is dumb.
It is.
Uh,
It doesn't make sense for anyone. I've been saying
well,
that the whole time.
partly what I thought too was this: if the Rockets are going to draft Wembanyama, then maybe there's some logic in just
Yes.
push everything and try. Yeah, exactly. So you got like Harden, Wemby, Jalen Brown. Like just go nuts. Like you get Wemby, go nuts. Try to contend in year one. But I don't think the Spurs should do that. But they don't have some weird avenue to James Harden, so it's a little different. But um, we didn't get Wemby. So now I feel like no, man, go get Mike Conley or Chris Paul, which there's some rumors around that, right? Like these are veterans that can teach your guys that are on expiring deals, like, and they will still make you better next season,
Yeah.
right? And like go sign Nas Reed as an RFA, go get, I don't know, maybe you take a swing on Dylan Brooks, or maybe like you definitely offer Cam Johnson a big contract. Like these are all things that you can do that improve your short term, not to mention going from Steven Silas to Ime Udoka, right? And without jeopardizing your long term. That's the way to look at this right now. Like, yeah, the Rockets need to be better next year, right? We need to not be a laughing stock anymore. That
But they
means
will
jump to
be.
30 wins, right?
Yeah. Also, like the whole like, if we don't make these big swings, we're not gonna get better. I'm like, it's like, guys, like time out. Did you not like see your team? It was super young. You literally like by the end of the season, their active salary cap was like $60 million. Like
Yeah,
it was they weren't like it was a literal like they were spending more money paying players that weren't playing, that were off the roster, than guys that were actually playing. Like they are going to get like they don't need to get anyone outside of just fill that cap space with people that are functional NBA players, and they'll improve dramatically. But yeah, like the thing that always confused me with the Harden stuff is it was just like, who does this actually benefit? Like, really, does like how does this benefit the Rockets? Oh, like we're a 35 win team opposed to a 30 win team, or like shit. Let's just say it's like top tier outcome. They improved by 20 wins. They're a 42 win team. So what? You're in the
yay,
fucking play in? Like, okay,
yeah, I
cool.
know
But like you paid him how much? Oh,
exactly.
4 years, 215 million or something absurd. It's like, oh, so like this first season it goes well. The next season he gets a little worse because he's older. And like you basically be banking on, oh, our young players developing. And it's like, cool. By the time they're good enough to be leading deep playoff runs, James Harden's still going to be on the books. And he's probably not going to be leading that charge, right? It's just like they're going to get better because Jalen Green's going to be better. Jabari Smith Jr. is going to be better. I'm assuming Shengun's going to be better. They have a better coach. They have Terry Eason. He's going to be better. They're going to have this 4th overall pick. And then they're going to fucking spend up to the salary floor because you literally have to do that. And they're going to fill out the rotation. And it's just like, dude, they might win 20 more games legitimately if one of those guys takes a big leap and Udoka's a good coach and they hit on whoever they do the salary, like, with their cap space, right? Like, without James Harden. It's just, but James Harden, I agree with you. It's just like, how does this help you? How does this improve your chances of winning a championship? And if it doesn't do that, like, and it maybe hurts it, like, what the fuck are we doing here? Why? Why?
Yeah, no, I'm so out on it, man. Unless he wants to sign a absurdly team friendly contract, which I don't really see happening. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Let's talk about the final team in the top five to get off the draft lottery, the Detroit Pistons, who lost the most games in the league. And they ended up with the fifth pick, which feels unfair. And then you look at the NBA draft lottery odds, and they were most likely to end up with the fifth pick out of any single pick. So, for fans of tanking teams, I suggest you go take a look at those odds and realize NBA draft lottery is fucked up and it's not fair to the bad teams. And I don't know why they do that, seeing as that, like, these are organizations that are actively taking less money to try to improve. And you're like, we're going to punish you. We're going to punish you even more. It's like, dude, we already suck. Like, just stop this shit. Like, make sure we don't, like, fuck. I don't know. I just think it's a little unfair that when you're the worst team, you can end up with the fifth pick. And like some years, the fifth pick is like really not a game changer.
yeah. This year
Yeah.
could be though. I have a definite favorite target for the Pistons.
Who do you think they should get?
Cam Whitmore out of Villanueva. He's going to be available. I think he projects as like he definitely has star tools. He's got really impressive burst and vertical. He can get to the hole. Like he should be rim pressure from day one. They also need a wing. The shooting is a bit of a question mark, but I think that if he can develop an even, excuse me, an average shooter, he'll be good. The mechanics are solid. You know, like there's nothing about his jumper that makes you think this guy will never be able to knock it down. The percentages aren't even ghastly. They're just not great. I think he's the obvious target. They might prefer Ozard Thompson. Uh, I don't know. I think that whatever Thompson adds in terms of creation that Whitmore doesn't, or well, I should say playmaking, they've already got covered in Cunningham and Ivy. And I would just go get like rim pressure. And I think Whitmore's the guy for them.
I'm not gonna lie. After those like first four guys, I'm not. I haven't done enough research on these prospects. I'm just gonna say this about the Pistons though. I really don't like their rebuild. Like, I know people love Cade Cunningham. I've been kind of lukewarm just because, like, not that like I don't think he's gonna be a good NBA player, just that like there's a lot of people that talked about him being like a guy, like a superstar, like a best player on a championship caliber team. And like I'm not saying that's not gonna happen. It's just like it doesn't look like it. He's been quite bad in the NBA. He missed all of last season, so he's lost a lot of developmental reps. Ivy, man, like Ivy, I don't know. Like he's one of these dudes where like he put up some good numbers once Cunningham went out in like a superficial way, but like the efficiency, like he's someone that could go either way, and he also could end up being the guy. And then the trade for like Marvin Bagley and the extension, trading for James Wiseman, they already have Jalen. They only drafted Jalen Duran, who's like been quite good. And then Isaiah Stewart, like look, like they need a wing. And if Cam Whitmore is the best wing available, go for it. Right. Like I think that makes sense. But I don't know, man. Like the Pistons just like they got Bogdanovich. Like, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. And like
Well,
not to stroke your ego, but like I don't understand how like they do not catch the same like what the fuck is going on with this organization as someone like the Rockets. Like the Rockets have gotten all the like what the fuck is this organization doing? When you go look at the moves like the Pistons have made, it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You won 18
yeah,
fucking games.
yeah, but it's because it goes back to the same conversation we had earlier about how everything is so narrative driven. Like, right, the Rockets are like a good team. Like people are accustomed to them being a good team. The Rockets have been competitive since the goddamn 80s for the most part, right? So now that they're a bad team, it looks worse. Whereas the Pistons just went through the like Andre Drummond and Greg Monroe era, and then they pivoted into the Blake Griffin era. Like this team has been pretty much trash since like Chauncey Billups left, right? So
Yeah.
by now it's like anything they do well, anything that's optimistic about the Pistons is amplified. And like because we've now classified them mentally as a bad team. I think we've been talking too long, man.
Yeah. I guess my final thing on this is like this is like the Pistons getting the fifth pick seems to be something that's kind of could end up setting them back,
I
right?
I I think so too. That's why I partly would draft for fit. I mean, but at the same time, I think like Whitmore's like that's not controversial, you know, like
Yeah,
he's mocked anywhere from fifth to eighth, but I've certainly seen him fifth. I think that he's a higher floor prospect than Thompson, and in their case, I would gamble because the ceiling discrepancy is not that wide anyway. So I would just say,
yeah.
let me go get the guy who's got more bankable. You say you haven't watched Whitmore very much. Basically, picture like KJ Martin with a handle. I think is what I'm really looking
Is
at.
he bigger?
Uh, yeah, he's bigger. Yeah, and
Okay,
bigger.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Get
yeah,
get me that dude. Get me that dude. Give me
right,
that
exactly. Like
dude.
really strong run and jump athlete with like burst and strength to bully his way to the hole, and a really solid functional handle. Not like he's not Kyrie Irving with the rock, you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, like he can take it up and down the floor, and yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. We've been talking a long time. I'm just gonna say this. The Wizards, when they got to the final ping pong ball, had a greater than 50% chance of landing the first overall pick. Did you know that?
Imagine,
Did you even
imagine.
imagine? I know the triple towers, Daniel Gafford, Kristaps Porzingis, and Victor Wembanyama sharing the court together because we would have done that. That would have been my thing.